The first thing I remember was the silence after the crash. Not the kind of silence that comforts, but the kind that feels alive, heavy, and waiting to devour you whole. The sea roared in the distance, yet everything around me seemed muffled, as if the world had stopped breathing. Pieces of the small aircraft floated on the surface of the ocean, shimmering beneath the merciless sun. I dragged myself onto a strip of sand, gasping, my throat burning with salt water and fear. The waves lapped at my feet, pulling at the remnants of my clothes. My hands shook as I looked around, dazed and broken, until I saw her. She was lying a few feet away, face down, her hair tangled with seaweed and sand. I stumbled toward her, heart pounding with the desperate hope that she was still alive. When I turned her over, she coughed violently, choking out seawater before gasping for air. Relief tore through me like lightning. Her eyes opened slowly, hazel with flecks of green, frightened yet fierce. That moment felt unreal, like two souls reborn from disaster. I didn't know her name then. I didn't know we were about to share something that would change both our lives forever. Speech balloon. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in the power of the human heart. Speech balloon. Her name was Arya. She was a travel photographer, on her way to shoot a documentary about forgotten islands of the Pacific. I was a marine engineer escorting cargo to a research station. When the storm hit, there were only 6 of us on board the small charter plane. Now only 2 remained. The island we'd crashed near was barely visible on any map, a speck of land wrapped in coral and silence. The first few days were about survival. We found shelter in a cave by the cliffs, gathered coconuts and rainwater, and tried to signal any passing ships. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, we began to realize something terrifying. No one was coming. The world had moved on. Rescue planes might have searched, but storms shift coordinates, debris sinks, and people forget. At first, we barely spoke. She stayed cautious, alert, keeping to herself. I could tell she was terrified, but trying hard not to show it. Every time I caught her staring at the horizon, I could see the weight of what we'd lost. Family, plans, dreams, all fading in that endless blue. I tried to build something resembling normally, a small hut from bamboo and palm leaves, a fishing trap, a fire pit. She helped quietly, her hands blistered and raw, her spirit holding on to some fragile thread of hope. But it wasn't just survival we were fighting for, it was the battle to stay human. Loneliness crept in like the tide. Nights were the hardest. The wind would wail through the trees like voices of the drowned, and every sound felt like a ghost of the world we once knew. Sometimes I'd catch her crying softly when she thought I was asleep. She'd whisper names, maybe of people she loved, maybe of the life she'd lost. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her it would be okay. But what right did I have to promise anything in a place where even time seemed broken? Then one morning, everything changed. We had been out collecting wood near the western cliffs when I slipped on wet rock and tumbled down, slicing my leg open on coral. The pain was blinding, blood mixed with seawater, and I could barely stand. Before I could even cry out, she was there, her arms around me, her voice trembling but firm. She dragged me back to the hut, tore her own shirt to make bandages, and cleaned the wound with the care of someone who refused to lose another soul. That night, as I lay half-conscious, I felt her hand holding mine. It wasn't just comfort, it was connection. 2 hearts clinging to the only thing that still made sense in a world that didn't, each other. From that night onward, something softened between us. She began to smile again, faintly at first. She'd hum songs while we worked, or laugh at my terrible attempts to cook. She'd tease me for being too serious, calling me her storm face, and I began to see her differently. Not just as a survivor, but as someone who made even the silence of the island feel alive. Days turned to months. We learned to live. We built a garden from seeds that washed ashore. We caught rainwater in carved bamboo pipes. We even gave names to places. The whispering cliff where the wind sang through the rocks. The mirror shore where the water reflected the sky so perfectly it felt like walking on clouds. We stopped counting days. The island was no longer a prison. It was becoming our home. But still, there were moments when reality would crash through our fragile peace. A distant thunderstorm would bring back the memory of the crash. A piece of floating debris would remind us that the world still existed beyond this place. And every now and then, I'd find Arya standing on the beach at sunset, staring at the horizon with tears she tried to hide. One evening, after a long day of gathering food, she sat beside me by the fire. The glow painted her skin in gold, and her hair danced in the wind. She looked at me for a long time, her eyes reflecting the flames, and then she said quietly, "Do you ever think we were meant to survive?" Her question hung in the air like smoke. I didn't know how to answer. Maybe fate had played its cruel trick, or maybe this island was our second chance, a chance to learn what truly mattered. She looked away, hugging her knees, and whispered, "I used to think I knew what I wanted in life. Fame, freedom, love on my own terms. But now, I just want peace." Then, after a long silence, she turned back to me, her voice trembling, but certain, "I'm just a woman, and you're what I want." Her words hit me harder than the waves ever could. There was no hesitation, no pretense, just truth. In that moment, surrounded by the sound of the sea and the crackle of fire, we weren't castaways anymore. We were two hearts that had found each other in the ruins of everything else. We didn't rush into anything. Love on that island wasn't about grand gestures or promises. It was about small things. The way she'd wake me at dawn with fresh fruit. The way I'd carve wooden trinkets for her from driftwood. The way our hands would brush and linger, wordlessly saying what we couldn't put into words. There was something pure about it, something that belonged only to us. But peace never lasts forever. It was nearly a year after the crash when we heard the sound, a low hum in the distance. At first I thought I was imagining it, but then she heard it too, a plane. We ran to the shore, waving branches, lighting our emergency fire. The smoke rose high, curling into the sky like a desperate prayer. And then the plane circled. It saw us. We fell to our knees, laughing, crying, unable to believe it. Rescue had finally come. The night before the rescue team arrived, neither of us slept. We sat by the fire, silent, each lost in our own thoughts. The island that had once felt like our world was about to become a memory. I looked at her, and for the first time she seemed afraid, not of dying, but of leaving. She whispered, "When they take us back, will we still be us?" I didn't have an answer. The next morning, a boat arrived. The rescuers called out, their voices breaking the silence that had ruled our lives for so long. Arya stood at the edge of the shore, her hand in mine. As we stepped onto the boat, she looked back at the island, the cliffs, the trees, the home we had built, and whispered, "Goodbye." Back in civilization, everything felt strange. The noise, the lights, the rush of people, it all felt wrong. We were heroes, survivors, faces on magazine covers. But fame is a shallow reflection of what truly matters. For a while, we tried to hold on to what we had. We met in cities, tried to plan a life together, but the world pulled at us in different directions. Her career took off again, mine demanded travel. Slowly, distance began to grow, not from lack of love, but from the weight of reality. Months passed, then years. One evening as I was walking home through the rain, I got a message from her. It was just a photo of the island taken from above, and her words beneath it. "I still dream of it sometimes. Of you, of peace." I stared at that message for a long time, the rain blending with tears I didn't want to admit were falling. Maybe some stories aren't meant to last forever in the world's eyes. Maybe they just live on inside us in the quiet, in the longing, in the part of our hearts that still remembers what it was like to be truly seen, truly loved, without walls or expectations. Because the truth is that island wasn't just where we survived, it was where we learned what it means to be alive. Water wave, broken heart. If this story touched your heart, please don't leave without liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who believes in the power of love and fate. Broken Heart Water Wave Speech Balloon, and tell me in the comments, if you were stranded with someone and the world disappeared, what do you think you'd discover about yourself? Speech balloon. As I sit here now, years later, watching the sunset from my apartment balcony, I sometimes hear the whisper of waves in my mind, the same rhythm that once carried our hearts in unison. I close my eyes and I can still see her smile, feel the warmth of the fire, smell the salt in her hair. Some people spend a lifetime searching for meaning. I found mine on a forgotten island in the eyes of a woman who once said, "I'm just a woman and you're what I want." And in that one fragile, eternal truth, She gave me everything I'll never forget.